the longevity experiment no one was supposed to see. It was never meant to leave the lab, not because it failed, but because its implications were too disruptive. What began as a controlled trial quietly crossed into territory few institutions were ready to confront. Today, longevity research is public, polished, and heavily regulated. But to understand why this hidden experiment still matters, we need to revisit a time when ethical lines were still being drawn, when curiosity often moved faster than caution, because some of the most revealing insights into aging did not come from approved protocols, but from studies that were quietly buried. The experiment focused on a simple question: what happens when you slow the body down at its most fundamental level? Researchers adjusted environmental variables, reduced metabolic pressure, and extended recovery cycles in ways that had never been attempted on humans before. Early results were striking. Participants showed delayed cognitive decline. Muscular degradation slowed. Inflammatory markers dropped sharply. Biological age estimates diverged from chronological age in ways that defied existing models. But the data came with a problem. The conditions required to produce these effects were not easily justified. Strict routines, limited exposure, highly controlled social environments. The participants aged differently, but they also lived differently. As the study progressed, concerns grew, not about harm in the traditional sense, but about trade-offs, emotional flattening, reduced novelty tolerance, a narrowing of lived experience. The body benefited. The psyche paid a quieter price. This tension placed the researchers at a crossroads: publish and invite scrutiny, or suppress the findings and avoid uncomfortable questions. Because if the result were real, they challenged a core assumption that longevity improvements could be separated from how life is actually lived. In the end, the experiment did not end with breakthrough announcement. It ended with silence. The data archived, the participants dismissed, and a story left unfinished. But time has a way of resurfacing what was hidden. And as modern longevity research circles back toward these same variables, the forgotten experiment begins to matter again. When fragments of the data resurface years later, they raise more questions and answers. The participants had not simply lived longer. They had aged along a different trajectory. Decline was slower, but also flatter. Fewer peaks, fewer crashes. This pattern confused researchers reviewing the results. Aging is usually marked by sharp inflection points, sudden losses, rapid declines following stress or illness. But here, those drops were muted. The body seemed buffered against shock. The explanation lay in the environment. Stimulation was carefully regulated. Light exposure, temperature variation, and daily demands were minimized. The nervous system was kept in a narrow, predictable range. Stress responses rarely spiked. Recovery became the default state. From a biological perspective, the results made sense. Chronic stress accelerates aging by exhausting repair mechanisms. Remove the stress, and the system preserves itself longer. But biology does not operate in isolation. Psychological assessments revealed a subtle cost. Participants reported a sense of detachment. Motivation dulled. Curiosity faded. Life felt safe, but less vivid. The experiment had succeeded in protecting the body, but at the expense of intensity. This forced an uncomfortable interpretation. Longevity, at least in this form, appeared to thrive in environments most people would reject. The same conditions that slowed aging also reduced unpredictability, ambition, and novelty. As debates reignited, the experiment became a reference point, not as a model to replicate, but as a boundary to consider. It exposed how tightly aging is intertwined with stimulation, stress, and desire. And it raised a central dilemma. If slowing aging requires narrowing life, how we decide where the balance should sit? Because extending years is meaningless if those years feel compressed, constrained, or emotionally distant. The experiment had proven something powerful. Aging could be altered through environmental design, but whether it should be remained unresolved. As the debate deepened, the experiment took on a symbolic weight. It was no longer just about data points or aging curves. It became a mirror reflecting modern anxiety about control. How much of life should be engineered, and how much should be allowed to remain uncertain? Supporters argued that the participants had gained something rare: time without collapse, bodies that resisted sudden failure, minds that stayed functional longer. In a world where aging often ends abruptly, this gradual decline seemed humane. Critics disagreed. They pointed to what was missing: passion dulled, risk avoided, emotional highs and lows flattened into a narrow band. The participants were protected, but also constrained. Longevity had been purchased with a quieter form of loss. Neuroscientists weighed in with a troubling insight. The brain adapts to stimulation the way muscles adapt to load. Remove challenge and capacity shrinks. The same systems that create joy, curiosity, and motivation are fueled by novelty and uncertainty. Without them, the brain conserves energy by disengaging. This reframed the conflict entirely. Aging was not just a biological process to slow. It was a negotiation between preservation and engagement. Too much stress accelerates decline. Too little dulls the systems that give life texture. As modern society moved toward convenience and predictability, the experiment felt less extreme. Screens replaced unpredictability. Algorithms flattened experience. Risk was filtered. Comfort became constant. And quietly, many of the same patterns began to appear outside the lab. People were aging without catastrophe, yet reporting emptiness. Bodies were maintained, but vitality felt distant. The experiment no longer seemed hidden. It seemed prophetic. The question was no longer whether we could design environments that slow aging. It was whether we were already doing so unintentionally. And if we were, what invisible cost were we accepting in exchange? The climax of the story is not the experiment itself, but the realization it forces. Aging does not respond only to damage. It responds to engagement, to challenge, to the friction that gives systems a reason to stay sharp. The hidden study revealed a boundary modern longevity research still struggles to define. Reduce stress too far, and life becomes biologically efficient but psychologically thin. Increase stimulation without recovery, and aging accelerates through exhaustion. Longevity lives in the tension between these extremes. The resolution is not to reject control, nor to embrace chaos. It is to recognize that vitality depends on contrast. Periods of intensity followed by genuine recovery, effort balanced by meaning, novelty buffered by stability. As societies move toward ever smoother experiences, this lesson grows more urgent. Comfort alone does not preserve life. It preserves function at the cost of depth. And without depth, the years gained can feel strangely weightless. The experiment was never supposed to be seen because it challenged a comforting illusion that longer life can be engineered without reshaping how we live. But the evidence suggests otherwise. Every attempt to slow aging also shapes emotion, motivation, and identity. In the end, the most durable form of longevity may not come from minimizing risk, but from choosing the right risks, the ones that stretch the system without breaking it, that invite adaptation instead of avoidance, because a life that avoids all strain may last longer on paper, but a life that balances strain with purpose is the one most likely to endure with meaning. Subscribe to join the journey.